everyone's assuming KD comes back as most of himself. That would be one of the only times in the history of medicine that a guy came off an Achilles and came back as even most of himself. KD's going to have to demonstrate that he's at least 80% of his former self, because that almost never happens after an Achilles. If he comes back at 80% of himself, which, by the way, is optimistic, he comes back as an all-star, not an MVP. It's very simple. No one has ever basically come back from that injury as the same player, ever. So the odds are against it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to First Take, coming to you live from above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17. A little rooftop action. That's where Stephen A. and I are. But Max, I wanted to come to you quickly here before we get into this next subject. I think you had wanted to mention something potentially when we had the discussion about the Achilles yesterday. Yes.
Did you just forget your own clarification?
Yes, I kept saying it. I'm on a little delay. Sorry about that, guys. I kept saying yesterday it almost never happened, and I got a little hyperbolic at the end. I said basically it never happened. However, there's one very recent example where it did happen. Of course, Breanna Stewart just won Finals MVP, the Seattle Storm. Congratulations. And Jewel Lloyd and Alicia Clark tweeted at me yesterday about that, and they're absolutely right. So I want to correct that on the record. There's a very recent example of a top player, a great player, coming back from an Achilles as good as ever and winning Finals MVP. Congratulations, Breanna Stewart, and, of course, the Seattle Storm. Nevertheless, that she is the exception that proves the rule. It almost never happens.
Yeah, shout out to Stewie and the Storm. But see, your hypothesis proved wrong, Max. That's exactly where we're going. Guys, Stephen A., we're also hearing that Adam Silver, the NBA season could be kicking off on Martin Luther King Day. That's maybe the projected date as of right now. But we had this conversation yesterday. You heard Max, and basically, essentially what he's saying is that Kevin Durant might not even be Kevin Durant again. And the question I had asked him is who's in the way of potentially the Lakers repeating? Max had said the Warriors. We were also bringing up the Nets. Where are you on this in terms of KD, those Brooklyn Nets right across the bridge?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to point out that it will be the Golden State Warriors standing in the way of the Los Angeles Lakers. With Klay Thompson and Steph Curry coming back, they've got a top pick in the draft. Draymond is there as well. I definitely think if Klay Thompson and Steph Curry are healthy, look the hell out. They will at the very least be in the conference finals. I ain't sleeping on the Golden State Warriors at all. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are the greatest shooting, or is the greatest shooting backcourt in the history of mankind. There has never been a backcourt that can shoot like these two brothers together, period. Now, with Kevin Durant, let me say this. I'm not as pessimistic about Kevin Durant as Max is. He's a career 27-point-per-game scorer, 49% shooting from the field, 38% from three-point range. This is not a guy, even though he is athletic, this is not a guy who has the success of his basketball career predicated on his athleticism. He is a marksman who happens to be 6'11" with a 7'6" wingspan, who can pull up from 30 anytime he wants. He could get his shot off without jumping. And that's not to say he can't jump. He didn't have to, because that's how lanky and tall this dude is. And he's a sniper personified. Make no mistake about it. I expect Kevin Durant to come back next year in his sleep, averaging 25 a game. The question is the chemistry that he'll have with Kyrie Irving. But as an individual, and the new coach, Steve Nash. But what I'm saying is, as an individual, I have no reservations. And when I say none, I mean zero. I have zero reservations about the individual greatness of Kevin Durant, because his athleticism is not going to dictate his success. His marksmanship will, because he can shoot the basketball. Now, I'll tell you when things get uncomfortable for Kevin Durant. And he's not going to like hearing this, but I don't give a damn, because it's just the truth. We all know that Kevin Durant sat up there and decided to go to Golden State. It was a better move, blah, 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 blah. We also know you get tired because people saying LeBron's the king, he's the man. You're not. And you wanted to show that, guess what? If you had some all-stars with you, watch the noise you would make. And obviously he did that. But LeBron James now sits here as the reigning, defending NBA champion a 4-time champion who was a man amongst boys as a 35-year-old in his 17th season in the NBA. What some would be like, he's lost a step athletically. Didn't matter. LeBron was dominant. You KD with Kyrie, particularly with Kyrie opening his mouth about, it's the first time in his career that he's going to have faith in somebody, taking a shot ahead of himself, blah, blah, blah. On the podcast that KD was emceeing, excuse me, when y'all come back, we're watching, because there's an individual by the name of Jalen Rose. I don't know if you know who that is, but his name is Jalen Rose. He happens to be a very astute basketball.
I heard he upgraded himself with his wife.
Yeah, he's upgraded big time.
Like
no question about that. And here's the deal. Jalen Rose said he's got Brooklyn against L.A. in next year's NBA Finals. Well, guess what? They ain't getting there without KD. And by the way, we all anticipate that LeBron will probably be, Denver, of course, Denver and the Clippers, you got to take that into account. But we're waiting. KD in the Eastern Conference, if KD's healthy and Kyrie's healthy, nobody wants to hear any excuses. As much as we were proud of the Miami Heat, you ain't looking at the Miami Heat and going like this. They should beat KD and Kyrie healthy in Brooklyn. We shall see. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.